Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Often, when an employer finds out that you've done an absolutely terrible thing, you'll lose your job. If this thing involves any kind of, let's just say at this point in the video I can't go too deep, but we'll call it touchy-feelies of young people, then absolutely you lose your job. But not in the SNP. We have Patrick Grady, a man who lost the whip, having, admitted certain things, loses the whip, absolutely is the sort of person that's done this kind of crime. And rather than disbarring him from ever being a member of the SNP or ever standing and representing the SNP again, far from it. He's actually been welcomed back into the SNP and been allowed to stand as, a potential candidate. What on earth is going on? Well, in this case, the victim, for it is he who's calling for this, has asked Humza Yousaf if he will disbar Patrick Grady and basically throw him out the party and stop him being a candidate. But of course we know how weak Humza Yousaf is and how he doesn't like to rock the boat and how he's quite incapable of making any kind of leadership decision, particularly where it's an important one, and especially one where it involves the potential for young people to be harmed. So rather than casting this Patrick Harvey out of the party, he's sort of saying, no, we'll just let him stand again. And they're aligning the party with this kind of person. But of course, when you're getting the police investigating the likes of Jordan Linden, who was covered up by very senior members of the party, you know that this is exactly the sort of people they are. After all, we all know what the P stands for in SNP. But we'll take a look at this and see why heartless, weak-willed, spineless Humza Yousaf will not block Patrick Grady. Here you go. So, Patrick Grady's victim urges Humza Yousaf to block the SNP pest MP from standing again. Now, this isn't a question of speculation. This is a question of fact. Patrick Grady did this. He did this terrible thing. And rather than being thrown out of the party, they suspended him for 6 months and then welcomed him back. What kind of party is it that welcomes back a man who gets touchy-feely with young people? So, in a letter to the new First Minister, the former SNP staffer said he hoped Yousaf's strong commitments to justice and equality, don't make me laugh, would see him take a stand against Patrick Grady. No, because that would take a spine, and we know that Humza Yousaf does not have a spine. He has no concept of justice, no concept of right or wrong, and he is willing to use the party to protect the likes of Patrick Grady. And the reason is, and I think this is the reason, is they have to set a precedent, because they've covered up Jordan Linden, they've covered up Patrick Grady, they've welcomed him back. There's a lot more of it, from what I've been told, there's a lot more of it than has ever come out. And he knows this, and he needs to not have a precedent about getting rid of people out of the party, because they're all involved and they all know, and he doesn't want anyone speaking. So they have this code that nobody says anything, because otherwise they're all going down, and there'll be a lot of people in that party involved with an awful lot of skullduggery when it comes to this kind of thing. I sat on the information I was given about Jordan Linden and who knew, and I had to wait until that came out, and then I was able to speak about it. But there is one other piece of information as part of that which hasn't come out yet, which again I'm waiting on, and once that comes out it will be astounding. But there is, let's just say, a lot of rumour and speculation. You can take it with a pinch of salt if you like, because there's nothing been said yet, but there's a lot of rumour and speculation that there's a lot more of this in the SNP, and that is why they got a very soft attitude to the likes of Jordan Linden and to Patrick Grady. But anyway, this staffer, he also called on Yousaf to ensure the party reinvestigate a previous claim against another MP, SNP MP, Patricia Gibson. Grady, the MP for Glasgow North, was suspended from the Commons for 2 days after being found guilty by the House of Commons watchdog of unwanted physical touching with sexual intent. The victim, who worked for the SNP at Westminster, was 19 at the time of the incident, which took place in a London bar, and despite the harassment, Grady could still be reselected as a party candidate for the next general election. Gibson was accused by the same staffer of harassing him in a Commons bar, and the complaint was originally upheld, but her appeal was successful and she was cleared. In an email to Yousaf, the complainer revealed the personal toll of both cases. He wrote, "As a victim of harassment, the journey towards healing has been arduous. The path to healing from such a traumatic experience has been an uphill battle, filled with countless obstacles. One of the big obstacles you've got is the SNP covering up, protecting, and basically encouraging this kind of behaviour by not punishing the perpetrators like him. Although the SNP haven't taken any steps to check on my welfare," he said, "and with the unwavering support of the NHS, my friends, family, and the immense dedication of my partner, I have finally managed to wean myself off antidepressants, regaining a semblance of normalcy in my life," he added. "But while I'm making progress and continue to rebuild my life, the injustice I face remains unaddressed, and it's the likes of him, the touchy-feely man, who likes the young boys. And they won't throw him out of the party. Far from it, they're going to let him stand." He told Yousaf he is writing to reopen the investigation into Gibson MP and calls for assurances that Grady is not a candidate at the next election. He said, "Despite my best efforts to raise this privately, I've been met with silence from the SNP HQ, while a promised meeting with your predecessor Nicola Sturgeon unfortunately never came to fruition." He said, "No survivor of this kind of harassment should ever feel silenced or be denied the justice they deserve." He says, "I appeal to your strong commitment to justice and equality and ensure that my voice is heard. It won't be. It will be ignored. It will be totally ignored because they cover up this kind of thing all the time. And there's a lot of it to come out. An absolute rake of it to come out. You got away lightly. Just put it that way. Bad as it was, you got away with it quite lightly." And that is the trouble you've got with the SNP. It is riven with people like him. And worse, and way worse. Jordan Linden isn't the worst. And there's 5 or 6 people coming forward over that. And then there's the allegations involving the grooming. And this went all the way up to Peter Murrell. And ultimately, of course, if it's gone to Peter Murrell, you know that Sturgeon herself definitely probably, would have known about this. And yet they all covered it up. There's a lot more to come out and it all stinks. Anyway, I'm going to round up and come up. The whole of the SNP is riven top to bottom with people who are the very worst of people. And those that don't actually commit these kind of crimes are aided and assisted by all those who cover it up, who remain secret, who say nothing. And it is far bigger than you could possibly imagine in that party. If you knew how much and how deep it probably goes, you'd wonder why the police aren't investigating that. But of course the police are in the pocket of the SNP, and when you have the person who actually leads the Crown prosecutions out in Scotland sitting in cabinet, a friend of the people, a friend of the elite, if you will. It's all very incestuous up there. Nobody does nothing to no one, because if you do, they'll all go down. They're all involved. It is appalling. And I just wish this story would come out so I can talk about some of the things I've been told. I reckon I don't know half of what I've been told. I mean, I've been told a lot. I can't possibly speak of it. But I reckon that what I've been told is a tiny, tiny part of it. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you see and hear on the channel, please do hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, do not vote for the pervs in the SNP, and goodbye.